Okay, so as always, when I do an interview with someone I haven't spoken to in a while, I want to go back and then work our way forwards. But I feel like with yourself, that is even more important to do because I haven't spoken to you since you were still signed to the UFC. So a lot has changed since then.
Yeah,
I want to go back to that a piece of news dropping that you were chosen to not re-sign with the UFC. I believe it was September of last year. Um,
yeah, it was 2 months after. Yeah, so it would have been September, July. Yes, yeah, because it was. I fought July 23rd in London. I just literally just screwed the fight. It wasn't that Ludwig was better than me. It was my fight to win. The first fight was close. First round was close. I had him up by literally one significant strike. I think he jump kicked me at the end of the round. And even though I caught the glove, it still went through. So I literally had him up one round, and I literally just pushed too hard. I wanted the superstar status, which would have come with stopping Ludwig Klein in London. So I rushed in, didn't literally didn't. There was no feints, no setups in there. I laid no traps. I literally just rushed through, and he did clip me. He caught me on the way through. More so off balance than anything else. We ended up in guard. I was fine. There was no I wasn't rocked or anything. My chin was fine. Worked my way back up, and then I was 2 rounds down, and I just put all on the line in the third. And I thought that maybe I could finish with something that I know way. I was nowhere close to finishing, and I just rushed it again. So for me, it was more so a big learning curve. Because after that, we sat down and we really did start to dial in and change my game. Change the way I went about doing a lot of things, change the way I sparred, and change the way I did a lot of things. And then we were stuck in a process of negotiations because that was my last fight on my UFC contract. That was my fourth on my first contract. So we renegotiated with the UFC, and they were interested in me signing. We were discussing certain things, and they were giving me uh, well, like if anyone watching this or obviously yourself have seen, they negotiate very, very they are tough negotiators. So we made the decision, which was my management, which was to go free agent, to get a fight or two over the new year, and then to go back on a win and look to get a contract, which would have been probably a little bit higher than what I was on previously. So we negotiated with Aries and Octagon to get it on one fight, and they were really skeptical of getting me on for one fight deals. And obviously, you know how companies are; they wanted multi fights and they wanted this and that. So we negotiated, I was stuck in that process negotiation, and then we missed the New Year's. And went into January. And around that time, while he was still in negotiations with the UFC, I got offered the Ultimate Fighter. So they offered me the Ultimate Fighter, which was the McGregor versus Chandler. And obviously, for those who don't know, that is actually run separate to the UFC. So it's actually all done by the media company. So the media company, the lady reached out to me through Instagram, which she did. I knew a few of the other fighters who qualified for the show. And we weren't really that interested. And then they announced it was McGregor and the Chandler. And they come back, and my manager was like, "Look, it is worth it because it'll skyrocket you back through, and I don't think there's anyone in your you would struggle with." And it wasn't that I never ever look. I've never once in my career looked at a fight and thought I'd even have I've never turned a fight down. So for me, it was more so it would have just been the annoyance of living in a house for the 6 weeks or 8 weeks with other people, and Americans are hard to deal with as it is. And I mean no disrespect in that, they just don't have any sense of sarcasm or humor, and it's just they're hard to deal with a lot of the time. Big shout out to the boys in Team Alpha Male, by the way, because the boys out there are a good laugh, especially through the Mexican boys and the Brazilians and different ones coming through. They are a good laugh, but yeah. And then that, as I was prepping and sort of trying to see what's next, I got injured again, which was literally completely my fault. After Christmas, I'd been ill through Christmas that year with just like flus, and then I had I actually, I had a hole in my chest, And as soon as I say that, people always think, oh, you had staph, and it was nothing to do with that. I have really bad skin for ingrown hairs. So I had ingrown hair in my chest. I couldn't get it out of when I was picking up with tweezers, trying to get the hair out, and I couldn't get it. And in the end, I took pliers to it, pulled it out with pliers, and managed to cut through the capillary in my chest with the pliers, and it wouldn't stop bleeding. So I remember, like, I managed to scab it over, and I went back training. I hit pads. So when I finished pads, I had a light t-shirt on, like a white t-shirt of this with a vest over the top, the Temi vest, because it was cold. I took the vest off, and I had a patch of blood that had filled the entirety of my t-shirt. It must have been literally about half a litre of blood. And it literally bled out to the hour where my chest was pumping. It was just pumping it out. So I went to see the doctors, and they told me I needed to get it soldered. So literally burnt. They didn't have the tool, the white stick, in the doctors from a town I'm from, because I am from a small town. So I ended up going back to all the doctors, then turned into a big blood blister, which literally was the same thing. It was just turned into a blister where they gave me a seal, and it was just filling full of blood. It looked like I had a third nipple. And then I ended up going and having, literally, it was minor surgery, literally in and out the day with, and they literally packed it and said, look, you can't train for 5 days. Where they literally just cut it, covered it, and then literally said, look, if it'll either heal and you can go back training, or we'll end up having to stitch it closed. It healed up fine, just left me a nasty scar. But I had loads of these little injuries, and then the hospital I went through is in Abergavenny, down where my partner lives. So we went down there, and we went to I went to the hospital. There was an outbreak of chickenpox, and I think the day I had the surgery, I actually contracted chickenpox I think it's the second time. So I had a bad case of chickenpox all up my back. So obviously I couldn't train for 2 weeks then. And it was just and then I had flu, then I had another thing. I think my immune system was just compromised, and I just had these back-to-back little minor illnesses, which is relevant because when I went back out Team Alpha Male and really picked my training up, where I'd had the meniscal repair on my knee, everything had just gone tight. My glutes had gone tight, my hip flexors are tight, and my quad and everything was tight, which was all pulling on my knee. And I rushed straight back into pro training. I didn't take my time and ease in and start working on my mobility or my strength, which would have S&C, because I had to have time out far as well. Even when I could train, like I had the blood blister and stuff, I couldn't really lift because the stress obviously would have, with the system. Yeah, you understand. So I went back and training. I think it was like the first or second session I was back. One of the boys come at me quite hard and just caught my kick, ripped down to my knee, and I just remember my knee popping. And then I trained through it for 2 weeks, and my knee just started slipping back out again, and I ended up having to fly home and get surgery. So I literally flew home. I booked the flight for the same day because my knee came out in sparring, which was weird because I trained with Clay while Clay Guido was training with one of his fights, and we did a hard round, and it felt brilliant. And then I bent over to pick my water bottle up, and as I bent over to pick my water bottle up, my knee came out. It was just weird, like it wasn't going while we sparred. So I flew back, I had surgery, prep went perfect. I had a trim this time, and I remember like the same day I had the trim, I actually drove myself home from the hospital after having knee surgery, and I was back training within like a week or two. Did all my rehab perfect, and I was just chipping away. I sat down with my manager and I said, look, I can't deal with not fighting. It's coming up to July and I haven't fought. So we booked, and I was meant to fight on the Cardiff card, which would have meant I would have fought in June. So it would have been 11 months. That fell through because I had 4 opponents turn me down or pull out. I think I had like 3 turn me down, the 4th accepted, and then pulled out after a week. And then there was another one who was like, they took weeks to come back to me, and then they pulled, and it came down to it where I would have had 10 days notice again. And I called my manager up and I said, look, by the time this fight gets sorted, I said, if the next opponent agrees, this would have been my 3rd fight in a row where I would have had less than 10 days notice. Because the David Onama fight, I had 7 days. The Ludwig Klein, I had around 9, even though it was 9. And then this one would have been 10 days. I said, look, I'm not doing it. So we decided to move from there to Rome, and obviously that was one-sided affair. And then as soon as I come back from Rome, I told them in Rome I want to fight in San Diego. They tried to get me on the San Diego card, and they were struggling with a few different things, just logistics of it all. So I ended up fighting on the Dublin card, which just gone. And then come up to now, we was in negotiations with Brave to fight for December the 15th in Bahrain. We agreed purse. I agreed opponent. They offered me, it would have been super lightweight at 165. And like, I'm a lightweight fighter. Like, I can make 155. I can't make 145, but I make 155 relatively easy. And I'm happy with the weight. So 165, it's welterweight, do you know what I mean? And I have fought that weight before, but I'm not a natural welterweight. So we took it, and the opponent declined. So they tried to offer me another opponent, and the other opponent was at 175, which was almost middleweight. And the guy had a history of failing that weight. So we declined on that. And that was the end of the Brave thing. I tried to get on a show, which was boxing, actually. I tried to get a boxing fight, and that didn't that never really sort of went any further than just a brief discussion. And they looked at my numbers and different things. And then I am open to boxing as well. I boxed before, and I love boxing. And then the last negotiations we have is I had a fight offer to fight Amir Khani, who's just come off a loss in March in the UFC against Jack Shaw, my other the other Welshman. I accepted. We was in negotiations for purse agreements, and we was getting to a good place. And it would have been the 29th of December in the O2 in Prague. And Amir Khani declined and turned me down. I think by the time, I think it was like 30, they give him my name, and within like 30 minutes, they declined. So to be honest, I think I'm going to have to, we just left it now until next year. But it's just been a year of, well, it's been more than a year. It's been 14, 15 months of renegotiations of contracts and injuries, and just me hanging around waiting. And I started to get a tear through Cage Warriors again. Because for me, like, just to be able to fight was an honor. And I am super happy the way my management managed to get me a fight, because like a lot of managements promise that they can give you this and they can promise you that. And a lot of the time they promise the world, and it is hard for them to fulfill it. And like, they can't ever guarantee you a fight. I'm lucky with my management that they can guarantee me fights with Cage Warriors. So it was a step in a different direction for me to sort of go back to get some fights. But I've been working so much on sort of my technique and different things that I think it made such a massive difference. And like, I haven't got a first gear in my last two performances, and I've schooled people. So we're going to see. I've also been in negotiations like during this time with obviously things I can't tell you because they're things that I am looking for the future. And they've been with, two major organizations. Obviously, the UFC, I'm happy to say, was one. And another major organization that is sort of alongside the UFC, that in a different route, and a sort of competitive organization. And to be fair, when I left the UFC, when we chose to go free agent, I had an offer from this major organization that was very, very low, which was a bit insulting, to be honest, that it was that low. And like, to be fair, I will openly say it was less money than I'd had when I fought Desmond in Cardiff, purely purse. That's without including tickets. So when I was coming through Cage Warriors, the purse was always low, mainly because I was selling a lot of tickets, and I was pretty happy with just getting through. And we never really negotiated hard. I was happy just to come through and just to sort of to get my education. So it was low. And then after my last fight, it was sort of where it should have been after London. And at that point, we wanted more. And we couldn't quite get an agreement. So it would have been one more fight. And then I think that contract would have sorted itself out. And then obviously with them, I feel with the way it is at the moment, I'm sort of stuck now waiting to fight again. And then we're going to decide whether I do go back to the UFC and we sort that negotiation out, whether the UFC are interested in having me back, because they were originally. And then the UFC is so weird sometimes. one minute they offer you one thing, and the next minute they want to offer you an entry level contract, and then the next thing is they're telling you to wait, and it's just you do what you're told in the UFC, and I think they still have that sort of star appeal that you just literally you have to do what you're told. I know that obviously Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, before his fight against Bobby Green, he said about when they was asked in the press conference why did he take the fight, he said that he had no opinion, he had no other option. Basically, they made it seem like they have no other option, and the UFC is like that, and they have that monopoly, so they can. So for me, I'm just stuck in limbo a little bit now. I'm taking over, just working on some technique stuff. I just graded up my first dan in jiu-jitsu, which is obviously, for anyone who knows, after your black belt is just time served. So it was actually overdue by a year. So 2 years and I got my second. I've just been taking over, working on some things, just having a little bit of time off. When I mean time off dieting. My nutrition's been, I've been sticking to I stick to a rudimentary diet, and then I eat little bits more than I should. But I still training. Like I've literally just been training this morning. I've done 2 hours this morning, pads, had a light sweat, and then some kick technique. And now after this, I've got another session, and then I've got sparring tonight, just to take over like Christmas. So there weren't many people doing it. So just helping out my training partners, and just waiting for the new year.
The interesting thing, I think, the you said a minute ago about the UFC and how, yeah, to some extent, they have the ability to be like, no, you're going to do what you're told, right? Because the decision you made to step away and go and get more fights somewhere else and then come back to them and be like, but to basically up your own value and bank on yourself and your ability to go away and do that is a thing that a lot of people wouldn't do, right? And obviously, I think the thing that benefits us having this conversation now instead of maybe 6-9 months ago, something like that, is you've been able to get those fights in on Cage Warriors and show that, you were right to bet on yourself. But I'm sure there was a time where you were like, I'm going to bet on myself and do this. And then when you can't get fights, it's like, that UFC paycheck, it maybe doesn't look so bad when you consider it like that. But like I said, we have the hindsight now of being like, you've proven that you could do it. You just had to be given the opportunity to do it.
The thing that's hard for my circumstances, which a lot of people don't really sort of concede the point, is do you know what the average the average active fighters in a division is in the UFC?
No.
So the average it's around 70. It is, and that's between the male and the female divisions, the three female divisions, and from flyweight up to heavyweight in the UFC is 70. The lightweight division has 93 active fighters. So those active fighters are the ones who are actively looking for fights. That they are not fighters who are injured. Those 93 that are active, and that's 93 including the top 15. So those fighters and that active roster is very deep. So when you're in the UFC, it is hard to get fights. It is hard. It's like if you look on average, they put 2 lightweight bouts on every card between the prelims, where there's a numbered card and they have the pre-prelims, and the main card. There's normally between 2 and 3 lightweight bouts. And it is hard to get fights for your opponent and for it to sort of materialize all the way through. So sometimes you're waiting 8 to 9 months to get a fight and to get a bout, and the matchmakers trying their best to get you out, and it just you are waiting. For me, that's what happened leading up after the Mike Davis fight. I was ready to go again. The Alan Patrick fight, they managed to sort, and then the second fight was meant to be out quite soon, and then they pushed it back, and then the week of he cancelled and pulled with a pretend injury that didn't exist, and obviously that was with the Ludwig Klein. That was the David Onama fight happened. I took David on 7 days' notice, and obviously beat him unanimously. So it is hard. It's hard inside and outside, because outside, when you leave, like I've got that name where they know I'm more than capable of being a top 15 fighter. Like I fully believe I'm a top 15 fighter in the UFC. I have my ability. Like I'd fight Arman Tsarukyan next week if I could. Like that'd be a tough fight, but 100%. I think I'm more than capable. I've always said this, and I actually my game elevates against tougher opponents. If you look at my fight against well, the Mike Davis fight, the Onama fight, the Ludwig Klein fight. Not, but the Ludwig Klein fight was different. That was a very poor performance for me. Like I said, I fought it with my heart more in my head. I wanted that superstar stint. But like Alan Patrick, I destroyed. Mike Davis, I still think I won that fight. David Onama, like I was ruined in that fight. Like my knee was ruined. I needed surgery. Bad. Literally, I was couldn't do any jiu-jitsu because my knee was ruined. I had a dislocated sternum and I had flu. So it was literally just one thing after another. And you just get the job done. And like there was no excuses. I never make excuses. I literally went out there and I beat him the way I had to, which was I just wrestled him. But I'm more than capable of beating these top 15 guys. Like if on my best day, I can beat these guys. So for me, it's very hard for me to get fights. And then when I do get these fights, a lot of the time they're one-sided affairs because I'm just better than the caliber of opponent that's there. So for me, it's just about getting another fight and then looking at my value and where I am and what I need to do. A lot of people don't understand that because I've been in the UFC already, there's no contender route for me. A lot of people say, well, why don't you do the contender? And I'm like, well, I'm not interested in doing the contender. I've never been interested in doing the contender, but also now I'm not able to. The older fighter was the option there, and obviously that didn't materialize. So for me, it's just about winning fights and just waiting.
Is there a sense of like obviously again when we speak about your decision to not re-sign with the UFC, which again I don't think a lot of people in your position would have made, which I think is a credit to you that you had the faith to be like, I can come back and demand more if I go away. But
Well, you can't. That's the thing. It's like the main thing I left was because I like the Mike Davis fight, I fought with the wrong mindset. I won the stats and I was that focused because I knew it was a tough fight after the first couple of seconds. I was like, I just need to win the stats. So I had more, I made sure that my output was higher than his. I was landing better than his. And the UFC doesn't actually score on that. They score on other things like damage and how they basically, it depends on how the judges think who won the fight. It doesn't matter the statistics at all. And then the Alan Patrick fight, with Alan found a way out after I was literally just taking my time and chipping away at him. The Onama fight, I was ruined and I won a wrestling fight. To be honest, I've never had a chance to go in there and show exactly what I can do. The Ludwig Klein fight, I self-sabotage. And he's a tricky opponent. Like he's not just a scrapper like Mike was. I thought he was trickier because he was sort of like a fencing match, and it's all about scoring points. Like he's very hard to finish. Like after he beat me, he had a draw with Jai Herbert. Then he had a win since, I think, another tricky win. Like he's tricky. So it's one of those fights. So for me, I just haven't had a chance to really show exactly what I can do, and it is coming. Like I'm improving every time. I'm 28, I'm still young. This is why I was happy. I was happy enough to know that I've got time. But I'm still a ticking clock. Like 7 years, 35. I want to be looking to sort of to be in a position where I am comfortable. And at the minute, like I'm not in that place. I obviously the 12 months I didn't fight. I paid for surgeries. I had credit card bills and different things. And then the two fights have come a long way to sort of get me back to where I need to be. I lost some sponsors mainly because I wasn't competing. So you can't really keep sponsoring, not competing. So I need to get back to where I was. Obviously, I went from the UFC to Cage Warriors again. So my sort of platform decreased. So for me, I've got a lot of work to do.
with I assume, right, so the two kind of big options at the end of this, of course you can go and fight on other promotions like you mentioned Brave. I was speaking to Jack Grant, who's on that card that you were potentially being lined up for, and speaking to him about the opportunity they've given him and things like that. But obviously the two options really that you're looking at in terms of the big ones, right, are obviously going back to the UFC, which I'm sure, as you just said, motivates you because you didn't really get to prove yourself properly in the UFC. That run, like you said, that every single fight, it was like, oh, are you kidding me? You know, like, when are we going to finally just get everything? I know that no one goes into a fight 100%, but at least, you know, close to some degree. And I imagine the other option that you didn't name is the PFL, which for you, again, the UFC, you've got the opportunity to prove yourself, which you didn't get the first time around. And with the PFL, you have guaranteed fights, right? It's a laid out schedule. So the issue with getting fights isn't necessarily there. Is there one of the two kind of things that means more to you at this stage in terms of being active or getting back to the UFC to kind of prove that you didn't get to show your best?
So I've always said, and this is the only way I can answer that question for you.
Yeah.
I've always said I would never fight in Bellator. Not because of the Bellator banner, but because I know openly that people take steroids in Bellator. PFL bringing in testing, and they've been in the process of bringing in testing for the past 12 months. I personally believe that the advantage of steroids lasts for about 2 years. So after you take, especially if you're on the right things, I think the advantage of steroids is 2 years. That's obviously decreasing injuries, injury prevention as well, but strength, your actual skeletal system, your nervous system, weight cutting, weight hydration, how much you get on your cardiovascular system, your actual like your lungs and your respiratory system, like all these become more efficient and a lot of things. So for me, I wouldn't be interested in going to be I wouldn't be interested in ever signing to Bellator because of that. And now obviously where they are at the moment is a very tricky place to be in. So for me, I wouldn't like to comment on that. All I would like to say is I just need to get one more fight, and then we'll see what roads are open to me.
Is it likely that that fight will be in Cage Warriors? I know you spoke about other options potentially, but obviously, like you've said, Cage Warriors is always such a good option for you because they can get you fights. The problem that you're having is similar to I've speaking to Darren Stewart about this. When you've been to the UFC and you come back to Cage Warriors, there aren't many people around that want to fight you because they're like, well, what have I got to? Sure, I might be able to beat a really big name who's been there and done it, but it's just there's not going to be many people in Europe that are willing to take you on.
So between Cardiff, Rome, and Dublin, I think I've averaged about 3 pullouts per fight.
Yeah.
I think yeah, I think so. About 3. So
yeah,
I think Dublin was the only one where they only bounced 1 or 2 names, and that's names they bounced to me. Most of the time they bounce names to them, get them to accept, and then they bounce into me, and then we try and go from there. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are full of shit. They say yes, and for Rome, I think it was Rome or Cardiff, there was an opponent who said yes, and they made a big hoo-ah out of it, and I was just waiting, and I think it was like 3 weeks. I didn't hear anything, and all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, he's out." I'm like, well, it's fucking bit of a piss take, but just fight. If you're gonna fight, just fucking fight. Do you know what I mean? Sorry.
no, I get it, mate. I get it. You've had to sit out for a long time to get fights, and then you see people getting fights and not taking them. So I can't even understand how frustrating that is to watch that happen. Again, looking forward, I suppose, to the new year. Is there a plan for when you want to be back? I know that Cage Warriors are yet to kind of announce dates and things like that, but I imagine that might play into it if they have a card coming up in the first few months that makes sense for you or something like that.
So I don't really do anything apart from fight. I don't like spending time with my family. I don't mean it in that way. My life resolves around the gym. I've done this for 22 years now. 20, 21, 22 years. And at that time, like everything revolves around the gym. My friendship groups are kept separate. I literally, I'll see the boys and different things around the gym, my gym schedule, my coaches and everything are all, they literally totally my coaches. They don't have to worry about coaching other people. It's mainly to do with me. They are my coaches. And then they do other things outside. Like I built a coaching team around me, which is how you have to have it. So for me, I can literally get fit and fight within 6 weeks, basically 5 weeks. I can take a short notice fight 4 weeks, but I wouldn't really take a short notice about less than that. But so I need about 4 weeks to 6 weeks notice to fight. 6 weeks being optimal. 8 weeks is just too. Anything over 8 weeks is too long. I learned this after the Alan Patrick fights. They just if you stay in camp longer than that, you just blow yourself up. So 6 weeks is optimal for me. I stay fit. I run like once a week. I train twice, 3 times a day. I'll do cardio, another session of cardio that doesn't include running, another session, and then my S&C is 3 times a week. And then my sparring and everything, I stay active through. So for me, I'm ready to fight anytime. I know it's a long-winded way to say it, but basically, I'm open to fight anytime within 5 to 6 weeks. So Christmas, if they told me I was fighting the first or second week of January, I would just have Christmas. I would just wouldn't do Christmas. For me, it's not really a big thing. I don't really care about anything apart from fighting. I'm 28, so like I said, I am a ticking clock. I am 100% going to be a world champion one day. I've done the Cage Warriors route. I'm not really interested in going back and doing that again. Like I want to be in a major promotion and I want to win the title I'd 155 in a major promotion, whether that's the UFC, whether that's somewhere else. But I will 100% win a title one more time.
Well, I love to hear it, mate. I'm super thankful for all of your time because I know that you've taken a long break from doing stuff like this, and there was a lot to get to, right? So, I'm glad that that we can speak about this, and it seems like things, that ball is finally rolling, and you are getting fights, and things are on the up. Because, yeah, it's been I can't even
No, I
imagine it. It's been a
appreciate it, mate.
nightmare.
And to be fair, I do notice that one of the reasons I did want to get an interview with you because like even when I was out the 12 months and things like you posted a few things about me and different things, and I do appreciate that. One thing to shout out before I go, I am a advocate for men's mental health, especially after July. Like it was a bad time for me. Like with everything going on, I had family problems and some other things going on in my life and everything. So it was a highly stressful time. And like for myself, like I have actually been seeing a counselor and a therapist and different things that have helped massively for me. And that's nothing to do with the fighting, that's just to do with personal issues, different things. But like I understand how stressful it can be. Like I had 12 months where I wasn't earning money, my sponsors were all drying up. Every time I was trying to get a fight, I was getting rejected, different things. Then I ended up having surgery, and after spending money to go out and invest in myself to go back out Team Alpha Male, I ended up blowing my fucking knee, having to pay for a flight home the same day, and then pay for surgery to get it done as soon as possible. Then I had problems with the dog, who's she's like a baby to me, and she nearly died. We had to pay for major surgery for her and different things. So it was just a bad 12 months, and then like for me, when I'm not fighting, I'm not happy. So it was a struggle. So I understand that people go through it, and like I will say that like it's a very difficult thing to do. But if you are struggling and people don't understand that, like I've met people in my life who wake up and just don't want to be alive, and there's no reason to it. And a lot of people don't understand there doesn't actually have to be a reason. I've had and I've seen things, and we've spoken to through the men's mental health channel and through Tidy But, who I advocate for. That like some people have like kids have broken TVs and broken like items that they think they're going to get in trouble for, and actually taking their own lives because of that. So it doesn't have to be a big item. It could be something small, but it's all about how it feels to you. And it could be like some people struggle with relatives dying, some people struggle with like debt, some people struggle with like medical injuries, some people just struggle. So yeah, if you are struggling, please reach out. Tidy But's there's Mind, there's loads of other charities, and there is a big advocate, especially for men's mental health now, because it is a difficult thing to speak out, and I think men struggle with the stigma behind it of being weak. And one thing I advocate for is sometimes you feel like you have to rely on those people around you, and you feel like you're a burden, different things. Reach out to people around you, but please do also reach out to professionals, because they help more than the people around you. Like the people around you, they don't know how to handle things, and they're always scared of doing the wrong things, and you will become a burden to a certain extent. So please reach out.
Yeah, well said, man. And I think that you talking about the struggles that you've been through when I know that like it's not it might not seem like a huge thing, but I speak about this all the time about how when a fighter has a fight coming up, you're in the spotlight, but then when you're not, like you said, you were out for a long time, and
You're in the bin.
people don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and that I'm sure you had a bunch of people going, why aren't you fighting? And you're like, I want to, but you know, it's not working out. So I get it, and I think it means a lot coming from yourself. So well said, mate. And hopefully we'll catch back up with you soon when you have a fight booked. And as you said when we spoke about you for this, when we reached out to you for this interview, Year of the Dragon next year. It seems like it's all coming together for you.
Chinese New Year, Year of the Dragon, and I am coming for that spot. So I think within 12 months next year, I think I'll be looking at an opponent again into the big leagues again. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again
Thanks,
for
man.
your time, man.
You have a nice day. Thank you,
You
Kyle.
too,
Bye
mate.
bye.
See you later.